Hello and welcome to another HubChat. Today we are going to discuss the MOT. So first of all, what is an MOT? MOT stands for Ministry of Transport. It's your annual safety test here in the UK.
Introduced in 1960.
1960, yeah. So before that, everyone just drove whatever sort of heaps they fancied.
And there are exceptions, but cars... So if your car is over 40 years old, you can be MOT exempt and you don't have to have the MOT test, which is something that we're going to discuss a bit later on. There are other exceptions. For example, if Took was lighter, she would be exempt.
So, yeah.
But laden, that is. So you'd have to consider, I think it's 305 kilograms, including the person.
Okay.
Yes.
Took's 410, but she's old enough. She doesn't need one. So
well, no, exactly. But yeah, there are lots of interesting exceptions because, of course, obviously we did a little bit of research before we started. On the islands, where there's not a bridge, a ford, or a road. I can't remember what.
Yeah, if you can't drive to the mainland.
That's
directly.
what it. Okay.
Yeah, you don't know. So some of the islands up in Scotland, for example.
So anyway, what this test does is it's about road safety. And it's ensuring that everything is functional on your car. Bella has just gone through and unfortunately failed her MOT. They check through your
work to rectify that situation. We can have a retest next week.
Yes, they check through your lights. They check through the basic structures of the car.
Steering, suspension, airbags, yeah, brakes, tyres.
Yeah, and
They've got quite the list of things that they need to check.
Yeah, so having done a little bit of research, we've discovered that only 2% of accidents in the UK are actually caused by poor maintenance, aren't they? Yeah, so that's great.
At the moment.
At the moment. However, the law is changing.
Well, the law may be changing.
It's under discussion.
There is a consultation open until the 1st of March this year. So the government are inviting your views, which no doubt they shall ignore anyway. And the consultation is suggesting that the first MOT of a vehicle, instead of every 3 years, will become every 4 years. Become 4 years for your first MOT test. And they're also going, well, maybe we should change the duration of a normal test so it becomes every 2 years instead of 1 year. And this discussion will be about whether that is a good idea or not. Just before we jump into that, I would just quickly like to jump in with some merch news. Hoodies and other things can be ordered from our store. International orders have been on hold because the Royal Mail are having a few issues with international shipping.
But should be on the move.
That should be rectified soon. So if you place an order in the past week or so, we are sitting on it. We're not sending it until they tell us it's okay.
Yes, we don't want it to just get lost.
So basically, this is going to be a discussion. Are MOTs a good idea?
Yeah. So the government thinking is that, I believe it opened on the 18th of January and it's closing on the 1st of March, isn't it? For the discussion, the consultation. They believe that it will save £100 million because the average MOT test is £40. This is speaking from the .gov website. They think that the average test is £40 and it will save £100 million through doing this. They also have conducted or read through studies that suggest that increasing the gap for new cars from 3 years to 4 years will not make a difference to these rates with accidents. Discuss.
Yeah. I mean, the thing to point out is, like we said, 2% of accidents in the UK are due to mechanical failure. The most likely cause of incidents in any sort of traffic collision, it's humans. Humans are the weakest link here. But I looked online and found some stats in America which suggested that a federal study said that mechanical failure could be as high as 13% of reason for collisions.
And what's interesting about America?
Most states don't have annual safety checks. In fact, the vehicle is only checked if you sell it. So if you sell the vehicle, you have to get it safety checked for the person who's going to buy it off you.
It's important to note with the cars over 40 years, they have to be fit they have to be safe to drive. There are certain checks you have to carry out. There is a form you have to fill in. I can't remember the letters on it or numbers on it. That's the Badger, and there's a different one for different vehicles. But anyway.
I think what you're going at is that it's beholden on you, the driver, regardless of whether your car has an MOT, has a longer MOT,
safe.
no MOT. Because it's exempt, you still have to have your car in a roadworthy condition.
It has to be safe.
You don't with a 40-year-old vehicle, you don't have a certificate to say that a man has checked it's okay.
No, but
it's
if you
just
get
on
caught
you.
driving a vehicle that is unfit, then you will be fined, I think it was £2,500. So there are still limitations there to, to keep things safer. And this is the thing, this MOT point is all about safety. It's funny because we were in the car the other day, we were having a discussion about our local buses. Now, the bus is irrelevant, it's the mileage that's important. So thinking about our local bus, it does 100 miles every 2 hours.
Yeah, rough calculation.
Which is about 600 miles a day, which works out to something like 14,000 miles across the month. And that's mileage that's actually easily done. Yes, buses are subject to different checks.
Yeah.
Please don't come at me. I know they are. It's entirely different. The vehicle is irrelevant. It is just about the mileage. There are lots of people out there driving their cars and covering that mileage.
Yeah. You think about sales reps, they're bombing all over the country. They might be doing 60, 70,000 miles a year. And you're saying their car probably won't get checked at all because they'll probably change cars at 3 years.
It's probably safer than, say, Mrs. Jones, who... I mean, what the suggestion is that car is as safe as Mrs. Jones, who takes her car to the shop once a week, 2 miles down the road, and puts it in for its MOT every year.
In a way, time is kind of irrelevant. It's not time,
it's mileage.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Although a lack of use can also cause issues with brakes and things.
I mean, I noticed that Katie, Wrench in Wench, was discussing this. Now, Katie deals with commercial vehicles. She deals with vans, predominantly Bilingos.
Yeah.
And she has seen some absolute horrors.
Yeah.
And the horrors...
In a year, you could easily wear out a set of tyres on
the
a van.
horrors that she sees and the extent of them, which is horrific, go and see on Weird Car Twitter. That's after 3 years.
Yeah.
You're anticipating these vehicles going without that check for another year.
Yeah, it doesn't seem sensible.
It's frightening. It's
the same with the 2-year thing. It's just like plenty of cars are failing MOTs at 1 year. Why would you extend that? It just seems illogical. Especially as looking, I think this is a federal study in America, of those sort of 13% of mechanical failures, most were tyres or brakes, which are two of the most critical safety things. So why would you remove an inspection of that?
Yeah. And going back to Bella is a 20-year-old car. Things are going to start failing. If you look back across her MOT history, every year there's been something that needs to be done. It might be an advisory, or it might be you must do this now. Yeah. But there's always something. And the thought of, that being every 2 years is is frightening, really. Yeah. It really is.
And then you've got the fact you're taking work away from garages as well.
You stole my thing!
Oh, sorry. I thought we were getting there.
No, go on.
It's in the natural point. But
we
you are.
There.
You're taking away that annual test. And okay, the annual test isn't much, but these annual tests tend to result in work being needed.
Corrective works. Yeah. I mean, they're suggesting... It just feels like it's just... It just feels like putting a plaster on a leg that's fallen off.
Yeah, it's like, people are struggling for money, are they?
£40. Oh, great.
Yeah, like
but you can drive a car that's unsafe.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I have no idea what is driving this. Why is this suddenly a thing?
There is
so much going on in the world at the moment. Really important
exactly
stuff.
This. I'm not going to get like conspiracy theorists, but is it a distraction technique?
Well,
and
also,
I don't know. Somewhere where they can cut back money.
Sorry, I've just realised. Someone might be able to help us with this one. Kitch, Southways Automotive, up and down video channel. He works on cars all the time.
He does.
What do you think? Do you know why the government have done this? Thanks, Kitch, for that comprehensive response there on why is this happening. Yeah. We don't know. We don't know.
It's just the financial impact of that industry losing £100 million as a basic.
It's being sold as a massive saving to us when they're looking to put up fuel duty. Maybe that's what this relates to.
Oh.
They're talking about putting fuel duty up. 23% has been mentioned. This isn't confirmed. This is kind of, we think we're going to. In which case, saving 40 quid on your MOT test is neither here nor there.
No, exactly. It's swallowed in
the cost of running a car is still going to be absolutely horrendous. I mean, fueling a car for a year is thousands of pounds, even if it's an economical car. So you're not saving anything, really.
No, but also, and it sounds cheesy, it sounds cliched, what price your safety? I know the MOT test is one of those things where you do the test and you drive off, and if
it's only a snapshot in time.
If something completely unrelated to the MOT test happens, it's irrelevant to the test centre, because the test centre is just worth what it's worth at that moment in time.
Yeah. But it's just someone who's been trained up, knows what he's doing, going around your car, giving it a thorough inspection. And the MOT is a bargain for what it costs.
Oh, absolutely. And the fact you can retest within 10 days for free. We're just looking to get Shemi tested, and I am so pleased she's going to go through that test, because the reality is we've done the work and we are amateur at best.
Yeah.
So the thought of having somebody check over that car and make sure it is safe to go.
Yeah, because one of the arguments for the classic cars not having MOT is something else I don't agree with, although ironically I do actually take use of it because the Invacar hasn't got an MOT on it, because finding somewhere to test three-wheelers is a pain. But yeah, I don't agree with it, because surely all cars should have an inspection, maybe a simplified inspection. It gets a lot harder with the older stuff because some of it is so unusual, and testers may not have encountered that sort of vehicle before. I know getting the 2CV through the MOT can be a pain because there's play in the kingpin sometimes, and a bit of play in the kingpin is fine. A bit of play in a ball joint, not so fine.
And also oddities like Took.
Yeah, most MOT testers won't have ever seen one up close, let alone had to perform a test on one. So I kind of get that, but of course older cars don't tend to do the mileage, and the category of cars they're looking to change the test for are the cars that are doing the big mileage. Like I say, sales reps doing 60, 70,000 miles a year in a car that now isn't going to be inspected for 4 years. I mean, effectively, that car is like halfway through its life, and
because you
not
said the
checked
average
at all.
life of a car is what, 8 to 10 years?
Depressingly, yes.
As we've seen when we go up to Tanagoris.
Yeah.
Worryingly, it's those cars reaching that 4 years safely, particularly in those instances of they might be a delivery driver or a rep, or so many industries where you're whizzing up, and now particularly with people stopping working from home and going back to the offices, a lot of people have moved out of the city and are doing big mileage.
Yeah, commutes are now considerable. Yeah.
And the cars are not being checked.
No.
It's frightening. And also for older cars, like I keep coming back to Bella, she's 20, 21 nearly. She needs to be checked all the time.
Yeah. I'm fully for an annual test. I don't get why this is being done. It's being sold as money saving, but in the big scheme of things, it isn't. And I just don't know what's driving it.
No,
there's talk of we'll be harmonising with other European countries.
Yeah, but that's interesting.
But
now
we left the EU, so we don't have to harmonise our rules and laws.
But it would also be interesting because they just mention in the .gov website, they mention harmonising with these other EU countries. But what they don't mention is, what are the accident rates like in these countries? What impact did it have there?
Yeah.
That would be interesting to know.
Yeah, France has a terrible crash rate, but I don't know off the top of my head how much is due to mechanical failure.
It's quite difficult looking for these facts because you just fall down a hole of death.
Yeah. But it just doesn't feel right. I just can't see the motive for it.
No, I saw something on Weird Car Twitter the other day. There was a car being driven to school and it had absolutely bald tyres to the wires. To the wires. Now,
it's insane because tyre safety is just paramount, and yet it's one of the most common reasons for a car having a mechanical failure. It's tyre related, and it doesn't mean blowouts, although blowouts are often the result of people just not checking their tyre pressures, so they might have a slow puncture that's taking the air away.
If you haven't got the tread, you haven't got the grip.
Yeah, exactly.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and you say, I'll put my precious children in this car with all its airbags, but if you're not putting decent tyres on the car, then you might as well not bother.
It's worrying on a number of levels. You kind of think, what's hiding behind this? Because it is challenging times with the cost of living crisis. What's coming next? And why this wonderful gift of £40 a year?
Yeah, just random.
It's worrying for the garage industry. That's like half of their trade gone.
And it's worrying for road safety. If currently,
and that's the big one.
2% of collisions are due to mechanical failure, what's that going to go up to?
Because having read that article, they looked at the 3 to 4 year scenario, but they didn't really talk about the difference between doing it only the harmonising with other EU countries.
It's kind of tacked on down the bottom there. I think they're hoping you don't really notice it. They're trying to hide it amongst talk about DPF tampering and stuff, which, DPFs are just coming into Hubnut territory, your diesel particulate filters. And I think already you're not meant to take them out, and they're going to make it more stringent on that, which is going to make life difficult for older diesels. Thankfully, we don't own a vehicle with a DPF. But yeah, they seem to have hidden the moving 1 year to 2 years right down the bottom, kind of hoping people don't notice. But yeah, this consultation is open right now, so you can head to the government website. We'll put the link in the description below, and by all means, the bear. By all means, tell them what you think. And whether it'll do any good, we can't say. But if you don't say anything, it's definitely not going to have any effect. So I think we'll totter off and have a bit of a comment on it ourselves. But there you go. That's just our thoughts on these impending possible MOT changes. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments, and we'll see you even in a future HubChat.
Can you tell it's the end of the school week?